Oh, yay. Oh, Micah plus Jernay. You guys, I don't know, you haven't met before.
No.
Hey everyone, thanks for coming to the Google for Education LAX 18 cohort final application workshop. We have a couple of our coaches with us today, and we're here to answer any questions you have. If you have any short answers that you wanted to get some feedback on, maybe you have a doc, maybe you have a video or final questions before you press submit. But we are here for you today. Thanks for coming. Go ahead and say hi in the chat and let us know who you are and where you're coming from today. And if you think you're going to apply by Friday, this Friday is the application deadline for the Venice cohort. But there's a few other ones. So this is due by 11:59 p.m. Pacific time this Friday. So if for some reason you've just gotten this email and are coming, there is still time. But if you don't get in, there's also Copenhagen, which is English language, coming up. And then we have Spanish language in Madrid and Mexico City this year. So still some other opportunities for you. As those introductions are coming in, Micah and Jernay, did you guys want to say a quick hello and where you're from today? Hey, Micah.
Hi, I'm Micah Shippey. I'm from Syracuse, New York. I teach 7th grade social studies, and I'm an academic researcher as well. Pretty stoked to be here and looking forward to next steps with everybody.
Thanks, Micah. Hey, Jernay.
Where guys, my name
today?
is Jernay. I currently live in Huntsville, Alabama. I was in the WDC 17 cohort, so I'm super excited to just be with you guys. And if you have any questions, please leave at Innovate. A pretty cool ed tech company. It's called. Just reach out to me.
Thanks, Jernay. I may have gobbled a little bit, but if you wanted to throw in the chat anything more, you're welcome to. I'll start with asking our coaches maybe, what time did you submit your application for your cohorts that you did, and any overall tips for when you did finally press that submit, any final things you did for proofreading or checking your links, making sure they were public, all of that. Any tips for that final press?
Yeah, so I was Toronto 2016. My biggest struggle in creating my application was the video. What I resigned myself to do is just to turn the camera on and start brain dumping, and then put it into iMovie and edit it afterwards. I found that to be the best way to do it for me. It was part of my workflow. Myself to do is just had me submitting mine in the 11th hour. So I don't know. I was very late at the end. I guess it depends on, again, I love the word workflow. It's your workflow.
I like that idea of just getting it out, at least getting something to work with. Same with words. Are you the same way with writing and with kind of short answers type of application questions too?
Yeah, same exact thing. I've been using voice to text a lot just to brain dump. I find my brain works faster than my middle school typing class taught me to think. So
thanks, Micah. Jernay, how about you? Do you remember what time you submitted your application and what that final process was?
Yeah. I think my application went in at 11. Whenever it was due, it was definitely last minute. But I tried to check off all the boxes, make sure that all the links were working okay. I tried to put of my innovator project just stood out from others. So yeah, I would say have fun with your innovator projects, so so others can be drawn into it.
Totally. Yeah. Let that passion come out. Thanks both. That's inspiring that even if you're here today, don't be worried about submitting late. And if you've already submitted, no worries at all. You feel free to share. I see Alex in the chat has already submitted. You could, if you really wanted to, submit a second one, but I think you'll be fine, Alex. And you please feel free to share any tips you had with your short answer questions and your project challenge and your video. So let's start. Does anyone have, this is your time, so we wanted to make sure anyone who came to this today had any specific things on their writing with the short answers. Is there any specific questions that you all have, or if you wanted to share either your topic idea in some of those answers, anything that Jornay and Micah could give some feedback on? We'll start just with the written part. Any questions, everybody? So I'll turn it to the chat. Great job, Kelly. You hit submit and closed your eyes and just did it. And I guess that's why deadline is pretty nice. Like when you are sitting there working and brain dumping in the dark, like Micah, sometimes you just you're forced to submit by the clock. So thanks, Jornay, for dropping that in there. Should we be adding details to the list of 10 items, Kevin asked. So there is a question that asks, if you were to put 10 items to change education in a box, what would it be? And we've actually gotten a lot of questions about this one. And really, this is measuring creativity. So there's no rubric against it or anything other than be creative. So any thoughts around if Kevin should include details or not? Maybe it's mysterious with just if you're scoring that, which your applications, everyone, are scored by fellow innovators looking to find great colleagues and people to work with. So if you're wondering, as you're doing a final read through your applications, just think like a colleague of who is having a new person join the network. Think of some qualities that you would want in that innovative person. And is this someone that I'd love to collaborate with? Because that's, I think, the main question that innovators are looking at when they're looking at these questions. But yeah, Micah or Jornay, any thoughts around this creativity question as people are writing that up?
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking a lot about this last YouTube chat here, and one of the things that keeps kind of resonating with me is we really want people to be genuine and authentic. And I know that sounds a bit pretentious, but the concern is we want you to be who you are, and so that we can best meet your needs. So if your sense of humor is in one direction, if you're a massive Doctor Who fan, I'm not, but if you are, be true to yourself in this process. The truer you are, the more we can help you, and the better the entire experience is going to be. If you're worried about writing something in the box that no one's going to get as a joke, then I would suggest a colleague that perhaps you don't know very well, ask them to review your application for you and give you some feedback before you submit.
Thanks, Micah. Jornay, any other thoughts around, and this is specifically on this creativity question that Kevin's thinking about. Any thoughts for these kind of open-ended questions, and there isn't a rubric to grade them? Any thoughts around tackling some questions like that?
Yeah, I would say just go with what first comes to your mind, because that's going to be true to who you are. And that's the beauty about the Innovator Program. Everybody just brings their unique backgrounds and personalities, sense of humor, and it really helps with each project, not even your own, but someone else's. So yeah, just be true to who you are. Put down the first things that come to mind, and we can't wait to meet you.
Thanks, Jornay. All right, let's keep going in the chat. It is really light. So one thing that folks are working on is how do you let your personality come through with such a small amount of characters. Any tips around that? And those were purposely put in there to try to elicit brevity and cogency. But any thoughts around that struggle? It looks like there was a question around acronyms or abbreviations to help hit that low character count. Any tips, guys?
Remember, you still have the video. You know, the video is a great place for personality to really pop out, maybe more than textual content is going to do. Again, I would have somebody proofread if you're using acronyms to make sure they're very common outside of your local context so that it's not confusing for the judges. You know, anytime someone reads your work, you don't want them to stumble over it to try to figure out what you mean. You want to have some clarity.
Thanks, Micah. How about you, Jornay, when you're writing something and it's forcibly, kind of like a tweet and forcibly brief, any tips?
Yeah, I think for the application, being succinct is what's important. If someone can get your ideas in an easy way, Micah says well, so that will allow you to just show that that maybe you were not in 250 characters or 500 characters or less. And I do believe spaces may count as characters too. I think I went before submitting because I was over like in SOC, I did mine inside of a Google Doc first and then paste it inside. So you may want to check that if you're last.
Thanks, Jornay. Awesome. So yeah, I think get it in there and read it through like Micah and Jornay said and see how it goes and see what you can get through in that amount of time. And I think that's a really great tip to maybe not feel like you have to throw your entire philosophy into one, let that come out in the others, right? If you didn't get to a point that you wanted to in one, let that point come out. Maybe even make, in your doc, hopefully you made a copy of the brainstorm doc so you could get your thoughts down or sketch it out or say, what are the main things I want to get across and see where those can suss out throughout the application. So maybe it's not repetitive or bringing up in two different questions and be a little more selective about each one. Perfect. Cool. Last chance for any thoughts around any of the written questions. Awesome. Yeah, Misty, it's scored by innovator judges and really along the brief. So what's in the application that it's asking for in terms of innovation, transformation, advocacy, growth, right? So they're really scoring it along those three main headers on the application. And as I mentioned, if this person would be a great person to innovate and collaborate with is the general goal there for sure. But I would make sure that you are looking at what it's asking and seeing things like advocacy and when you're sharing a link to something you're proud of or a social media network that you're a member of and maybe choosing the ones where you are active or a piece you're really proud of. Those are all really great things that can help someone think if this would be a great person to have in the network. Perfect. Awesome. Thanks, Kelly. Control-Shift-C to make sure you may have gotten to that end and then saw the red glow of horror. Yeah, Kevin, you wrote about a big change I was involved in, but it didn't seem very innovative. Any thoughts for Kevin, Micah, or Jornay as you're kind of reading back through and thinking maybe your example of innovation maybe didn't feel that innovative? Is there anything that he might be able to zoom in on or an aspect of that example that could maybe make that story shine? Any thoughts, guys?
Well, the word innovation is just talking about a change. We tend to think of it as a synonym for emergent technology, but it means something new. So think of like a telephone that goes to a smartphone. That's an innovation is the smartphone because of where it came from. So in your context, think about impact. I mean, you could have caused a major change with something within your school community, and we want to blow that thing up and spread it across the world and make some impact in other places. So, you know, it may seem small to you, but how did it impact other people? I think impact's important.
Awesome. Thanks, Micah. Hey, Les, thanks for joining us. Did you want to introduce yourself? We're talking, we're going to transition here from the short answer questions and any support folks had or feedback they wanted and move into the video and their challenge. So perfect timing for you to pop in. Did you want to say hi?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Les Macbeth, and I am one of the coaches for LAX, and I'll be working with you on design thinking for your project over the course of the academy. I live in Toronto, and I work for Future Design School.
Thanks, Les. Yeah, any other thoughts, Renee, around, I like that thought of focusing on the impact, or, you know, and this probably is applicable too, Leslie, if you wanted to share too about thinking of your challenge. And remember, you won't be looking at a solution right now. You'll be looking at the cohort, at the Google office, at solutions. So now you're really focusing, your challenge may be one that a lot of people are coming across right now. But I think this question that Kevin's tackling of how do you show how you've perhaps innovated in the past might be hard if it's, you know, innovating like maybe a lot of other educators might be doing, like new devices in school or distributing them. Any thoughts around, in addition to focusing on impact, helping your individual story come out when you're telling a story of transformation?
Yeah, I would say kind of like what Micah talked about with impact is thinking about who are the people that have experienced the change that you've helped to bring in. And we'll be talking a lot about sort of user-centered or human-centered design. And really, we like to talk about falling in love with the problem, not necessarily the solution. So in your applications, think about what was that problem that you were solving, whether it was distributing devices to your students, you know, what was the impact of that and what problem did it really solve? And how were you maybe thinking about it in a different way that maybe helped you to do more with the resources that you had, or helped you to, yeah, maybe think differently about a problem? Because that's sort of what we'll be doing with your challenges that you apply with, is looking at many possible solutions to your challenge and thinking that like 10x, like how do you take your idea and really expand what worked in your location for other potential users out there as well.
Thanks, Les. All right, let's shift to video. And if we're looking, I'll throw the chat up. If you have any other questions about your short answers, feel free to throw them in, or if you have an example. But now, when you're choosing your transformation element, and when you're choosing your user and the description of the challenge you're facing, and then the 90 seconds that can explain that challenge and why it matters and who it affects. Any questions around your video and addressing, again, Misty asked earlier, you know, what are the judges really looking at? And one is hitting the brief and answering these questions. So making sure as you're doing final touches on your video, you may have been staring at your video for a long time, but maybe going back through and saying, am I answering those things? Am I focusing on those things? For sure. So throw in any questions you guys have about the video. Anthony and a couple other people asked about how fancy does it need to be? And there's no real rubric, right? I mean, I think if you go through, we have our cohort, I'll drop the link in if you wanted final looks, but if you look through past cohort videos, they're all so different. And some are very lo-fi, but tell a great story, and their passion comes out. And some are really well produced and it still tells a good story. So it really can go either way. Any tips around how fancy or not, maybe from your own creation of those videos, Les, Micah, or Jornane?
My video wasn't fancy at all. I actually used a screencasting tool called Screencastify to actually record my video. Slide just had the window with my face on the side. And that was very simple and easy to use, and nothing fancy. I didn't use any high-tech equipment to make my video.
Awesome. And how did you let your story and personality come through with that technique for anyone who's thinking about visually telling a story by capturing images and video, but then also letting their voice come across?
Yeah, so a picture is worth 1,000 words, and you will find that just as you find it difficult to write 500 characters or less, it's very difficult to not have video. So I probably had, I don't know how many takes of that video. I had to condense it from 5 minutes all the way down to 1.5 minutes, and that was challenging. So I would say, you know, pull out the key aspects that you definitely want about, but just make sure visually your story can be told even without words to make that impact.
Thanks, Jornay. And thanks, Clint, for the question. Is it about us or the problem we're trying to solve? Thanks, Micah. Captain Ambiguity. For sure. I think, again, just making sure the brief is answered in it, and that you are talking about that challenge and making sure it's clear. But that personality definitely is there to see how you explain it, and, you know, the aptitude for solving it, right? Because that's really what we're looking for, is that you can come and work with each other to try to come up with a solution. And that's why your past innovation question is helpful for judges to see, have you done this before? And then are you well suited to tackle this new challenge that you're thinking about, and that you're open to trying different things to get there. Any other thoughts, guys, around that?
Yeah, I think that if your problem is a highly technical problem that involves emergent technology, then you would want to reflect that you have a certain skill set within that technology in some way in your video. I did a lot with augmented reality, so it was important to me to have, you know, images floating around in my video instead of just being a talking head, to demonstrate that that was the problem I was interested in, and how I had a certain proficiency in solving that problem. So it's a personality thing, for my opinion, that matches the problem. So I didn't mean to be totally ambiguous, but direct.
I think also, sorry, go ahead, Micah.
No, go ahead, Les. Yeah.
I was going to say, jumping in on that, I saw another couple questions around, does it have to be technology related? And I agree, if your problem is technology related, showing you've got that proficiency is really important, but technology is by no means a requirement for your problem. Someone asked, does a music related project have a chance of consideration? I think yes. Like, I think that the more diverse the challenges are, the more interesting your projects are going to be. We've had people do projects around mindfulness and around project-based learning and around all kinds of things. It does not have to be about technology. So keep that in mind. Don't try to force your problem to be about technology if that's not really what it's actually about.
Right. I mean, I would imagine that if I was doing a project or wanted my problem centered around music, I probably wouldn't have a green chalkboard and chalk be what I was filming. You know, there's some relationship between your interests and the video you produce. I spoke earlier about the brain dumping strategy, turning the camera on and just talking. That is how I did mine, and then I went in and inserted ancillary media that I felt supported my message in some way. So again, it's my personal workflow. I like to get it all down first, and then go in and insert the imagery that I thought would support what I was trying to say, and make it easier for the judges to get a better feel for who I was and am at this point.
Awesome, Micah. I'm looking at Holly's question, and this is one we get a lot. And this is a new format. So we have Amsterdam that's coming up in a couple of weeks, submitted their applications and videos with this newer format. And we'll be happy to have you know you have 30 extra seconds. So what you lost in some of the words, there is a gift of 30 extra seconds. The past videos were 60 seconds, you'll see. But I think Holly's question is good, because I encourage you guys to think, if you want to submit advocating for a vision and a culture of change, is really hyper focusing on that one user that you can visualize or that you see every day, Holly, and what's really the problem, right? With lack of vision, right? And lack of culture of change, and really focus on what you see because of that, and not so much getting into, I want to have a culture of change, but why you need it, I think would be really important. Any other thoughts for Holly's questions around vision setting, or if somebody's challenge is around lack of vision? Because I imagine a lot of people who are in leadership positions, that might be part of your challenge, is your leadership or change is not happening at the rate you want at your site. How's the best way to share that challenge?
I think when you're talking about a big change like culture shift, which I'm sure is a problem, like you said, that a lot of people are experiencing, try to dive into thinking about why that is a problem. Like, what are the things that are preventing that culture shift, and really try to narrow in on maybe one or two things. I like to say, don't try to boil the ocean, right? So you're not going to be able to shift the entire culture of your school district with your innovator project, but maybe think of a specific group of people that you can focus on trying to change, or a specific reason why there's maybe problems with a culture, or trying to develop a different type of culture, and narrow in on that why. One of the activities we like to have you do during the academy is thinking about 5 whys. So asking yourself, well, why is that a problem? And then whatever that answer is, ask again, well, why is that a problem? And really try to hyper focus and narrow down on the underlying causes of the problem. And then that might help you to develop a more sort of specific approach to your application.
Awesome. Thanks, Les. We have 2 minutes left, folks. We did have a question for if you share your vision. I think as long as the focus, Misty, wasn't on that, and really that's because we really want you to be open to finding crazy solutions and 10x solutions. And we found that if coming in with a specific project, a lot of people were really connected to it, which is awesome. But we're really interested this year in seeing what happens if we don't have a concrete vision before you meet, and if you are open. So we're really excited to experiment with this cohort and see what happens. But yeah, I would say for anyone who's still working on their application, that if that could be a possibility, right? Maybe that comes up in the application, that one way you thought about it is this, but I definitely wouldn't make it a focus, so that you appear, again, that aptitude for problem solving with each other. Awesome. Thanks, Natasha. Script your 1 minute and 30 seconds, it goes by fast. So maybe put down some notes and stepping away from the solution and focusing on the why. Cool, guys. 1 minute left. Anything else to share with our mini applicant cohort here today that has come to collaborate with us?
I would say if you're on the fence right now, if you're like, oh, I haven't submitted, maybe I'm not ready, maybe I should wait, don't wait, just put it together and hit submit, because you never know what can happen. And so, don't let perfect be the enemy of done. So get it out there and submit it. And if it doesn't work out this time, apply again for the next time, but don't hesitate on applying if you're on the fence. That would be my biggest piece of advice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been telling people that when I speak with them as well, just apply. Take it as a learning experience in and of itself. Force yourself to think this way, to think about through what a potential problem might be. And maybe it's the second iteration that you get in on. Plenty of people apply more than once.
Totally. Thank you guys so much for joining. Well, you have till midnight again on Friday the 18th to answer your question in the chat. By the end of the week of May 28th, you should hear. And hopefully you share on the Google EI hashtag both your video, Feel Brave. If you look on the hashtag now, quite a few folks have been sharing their challenge videos. And if you don't get in, again, the next English-speaking one would be Denmark. That you'd still be eligible to apply again to, maybe make some changes. But there's many innovators who've tried several times, and we look forward to having you in the network. So thanks so much, everybody. Thank you, coaches, for coming. Bye.